Aloha, everybody, and welcome to our channel, Scientology Peeling the Onion. My name is Mark Fisher, and I'm here with my co-host, Janis Gillham Grady. How you doing, Janis?
I'm good. Aloha, Mark, and aloha, everyone, because today our special guest is from Hawaii. So normally
That's
I'd say
right.
g'day because I'm from Australia, but today I'm with two Hawaiians. Mark, you grew up in Hawaii, and our
Yeah,
guest grew up in Hawaii. So I
that's
even
right.
put on a flower shirt and my Hawaiian earrings for this little motif of Hawaii. So
That's right. Well, before you introduce her, though, let me do business,
yes.
okay? Anyway, if you guys, want to subscribe to our channel, just hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. It really helps us out. And we don't have any live stream, but if you have any questions in the comments, you can do that. But go ahead, Janis. We're ready to start. You can go ahead and introduce our
Yes.
guest.
I've known her since I was 11 years old. She's always had a special place in my heart because she was my tutor when I arrived on the Royal Scotsman, and she was there for us kids when we went through the liability cruise. These are things we've already talked about, and we'll talk about it a little more in this one. But yeah, we've stayed in touch all these years later, over 50 years, we've stayed in touch. And she's been very dear to me. And she even went to Greece with me a year and a half ago. And so we have fun. And anyway, I want to introduce Candy Swanson, who was, by the way, there's Candy. And, when I first met Candy, she was fresh from Hawaii practically. And she was a surfer. She was a surfer girl. And one thing I always remembered, and I reminded her last night, was her muscles from her surfing. And I was very impressed with her arm muscles. I'm like 11 years old. It's like, this woman's got muscles on her.
Aloha, Candy. Where in Hawaii? Where in Hawaii did you live or grow up?
I grew up when I was 2. We flew to Hawaii, and I grew up on the North Shore.
Up in Haleiwa?
There. Yeah, Haleiwa. I'm a local Haole from Haleiwa.
There you go.
So I was 2.
Yeah. And then my father got stationed there in the Navy when I was like 6 years old, and we lived outside of Pearl Harbor and lived there until I was 10, and then we moved to Washington, D.C. So that was my Hawaii connection.
Aiea.
I love it there.
Aiea.
Yeah, in Aiea, that's correct. Yeah, a place called Foster Village is where we lived, right next to Radford High School.
Oh boy.
Well, Candy goes back there often.
Yeah, about 3 times a year.
Yeah, and I wanted to too. It's been about 8 years since I've gone, but I love visiting Oahu. I can have a fun there all by myself. There's always something to do, something to see. Oahu is just a beautiful place.
Yeah. Do you speak Pidgin?
No.
Well,
no problem.
I wasn't allowed to speak Pidgin, but I understand it, and now I can speak Pidgin.
The funny thing is that when I went to Pearl Harbor Elementary School, though, you were allowed to come barefoot. You didn't have to wear shoes. Mm-hmm. It's Hawaii. It was warm. It was like, come as you are. There was no problem with that.
How old are you, Mark?
I just turned 65.
Oh, good.
In August. Yeah.
So I'm 12 years older than you, and we wore no shoes either.
Yeah.
In Wailua.
I'd be surprised if they let kids not wear shoes now, but my feet were tough. I remember walking across parking lots and not even feel the stones or anything like that. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. So I got into surfing when I was 10.
Yeah.
1956.
Oh,
before
wow.
The California surfers took over the North Shore. Well before that.
Yeah, I love. There's a new channel that I watch on YouTube, and it's a surfing channel of young girls, teenage girls, and college girls surfing around Oahu. And the people who are filming it, they have drones that are out there over the water that are actually following them along as they surf through the surf. And they're like surfing off of Ala Moana and out by the Hilton Hawaiian Village and Waikiki and out by where Sea Life Park was over on the windward side of the island. And I love it because it's very peaceful when they're surfing, and they've got great music playing, and put it on just to chill.
Yeah. Wow. I'm always a surfer girl. I got my
So how did you get involved? How did you get involved in Scientology? Let's go ahead and get into your story.
It's okay. I went from Hawaii at 17 to Berkeley, and I ended up becoming astrophysics protege because I was babysitting for my neighbors. He was a physicist at Berkeley, UC Berkeley, however you call it.
Yeah.
So I went to Berkeley High School in my senior year, and it expanded my mind to become this protege at 17 of an astrophysicist. It was mind-bending. So when I ran into Ira Chaliff in Berkeley in 1966, which is only 2 years later after I graduated high school, I have to back up a second.
Sure.
Because in those 2 years, from 18, 19 and a half, that's when I left for San Francisco to do drugs, because my friends in Santa Monica would not let me do any drugs. They
And
said,
who were those friends?
well, Linda Ronstadt moved in next door to me. I had a house at the beach, Santa Monica, 122 Hart Street, Hart. She moved in from Tucson, Arizona. We were both 18 and naive in a lot of ways. And I was wearing flowers in my hair every day. I was from Hawaii. I'm still home, although I'd been over here for a year in the mainland. So I won't disclose any details other than when we're headed to Fantasia, the movie, the cartoon, Fantasia.
Yes.
And we're in a Volkswagen Bug, about 8 of us, crammed in there, and they're passing around a joint. And somebody yells, "Roll down the windows, Candy's in the car," because they would not let me partake at all. And that was that group. It was a wonderful group of musicians. And I became friends with Jim Morrison, who lived 2 blocks over from Hart. I'm not even sure how that happened, but I never saw any drugs. At their rehearsals, I would spend a lot of time after classes at Santa Monica City College, going and hanging out. And so I was the person. I looked like a hippie, I acted like a hippie, and I never did any drugs. And I arrived in New York City with Ira Chaliff, and I missed that whole boat. And we walked into New York Org. Snooky Weiss was right there in reception, this very wonderful person, and tried to sell me some books. And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? This is a cult." Nuh-uh. My dad had told me. So I was brakes on and no thanks, and I'm not doing anything in New York City. But I ended up working for $9 a week at the New York Org, because I couldn't face New York City out there in this giant space with all this going on.
Big comparison to Hawaii and even Berkeley.
Yeah. I always wanted to get to New York from Hawaii. I felt like that was the city that I was destined to get to. So I worked for a woman there, just delivering the mail to everyone's in baskets throughout New York Org, and collecting mail going out of the out basket. And I got very bored. I was telling Janis my story this morning. So I developed this statistical analysis of the New York Org, just off the top of my head. It was part of that brain, the mind expanding astrophysics state that I had achieved at 17. And I'd never done anything like that. Vicky Palameni sent the whole thing up to L. Ron Hubbard in England, St. Hill. And I got what was that in those days? Those were telexes, right? Because
Yep.
nowadays they're faxes. So she got a telex saying, give her all of her auditing as a bonus. And I'd never done a comm course, for excellent work. And that's what started statistics in Scientology, but it wasn't the way I saw it, because it got all warped and, twisted with the agenda that people put onto it. It was just a straight ahead statistical thing. I'm very scientifically minded. I'm an inventor. I'm an unusual person because I'm from Hawaii, and the nature of Hawaii. Grew up with a Hawaiian stepfather since I was 10. We had no television on the North Shore till the 70s. So my mom was a librarian. I spent all my time in the library reading everything. I read Dianetics when I was 12. Yep. And
Wow.
my mom had a photographic mind. I have parts of her mind, so I really treasure everything that I got from my mom. So here we go. Ira Chaleff basically influenced me, and I went in through the back door, because what you resist, you do end up getting stuck to in a lot. And I resisted constantly. I questioned everything. I'm still a heavy-duty questioner. I want to know, want to understand. And I ended up in 4 years on the ship with the liability cruise with Janis, and she was 11. And I was just like, whoa, what are all these kids doing here with nobody to take care of them? And I love children. And yeah, it was just a wonderful experience for me. There you go.
Yeah. Hey, listen, just so that's fantastic. Just so our viewers know, we're aware of the crackling microphone. It's Candy's microphone, and I just want to point out to the viewers, there's nothing really we can do about it. Sometimes when she moves, it crackles, but we think her story is so important. We just want to go ahead and record this. So please bear with the crackling every once in a while.
So if I don't move, it doesn't crackle, right?
No, it doesn't.
Right.
Sometimes when you lean forward or stuff, it crackles, but that's okay. I mean, that is what it is. Do you want me to start with the photographs, Janis?
Yeah, let's start with the photographs.
Okay.
So there is Ira and Candy.
Oh,
Candy,
wow.
that's when you guys went to St. Hill?
Yep.
Or was that in New York?
No, that's St. Hill, England.
Okay, and you got married. Did you get married in England or in New York before you left?
New York on New Year's Eve, a triple wedding with Vicky and Nick Palomini, and Minty Alexander, me and Ira.
Okay.
Huge wedding in their ballroom. It was really great. A lot of fun. Good. Ira's the real sweetheart. There we are with Eunice Ford.
Yeah, and Eunice Ford was the Hubbard exec sec in New York or in LA. But she pretty much, New York, she pretty much was a very key, like a right arm man to Hubbard in running US and New York.
Mm-hmm. And she also married us. She was our minister for the marriage.
Oh, wow. Yeah. What year was that?
It was New Year's Eve, 1966, turned 1967.
Wow.
In the next morning. And Ira and I went to the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico for a honeymoon. It's really cool.
Okay. Now, Janis, is these photos in St. Hill, or where are these at? So what was it like when you went to St. Hill? What was your impressions of St. Hill when you first got there?
Well, I went before Ira. He stayed behind to take care of things. So I arrived at St. Hill. We all stayed, me and the other two couples stayed at the stables, St. Hill Stables. And I had my own room waiting for Ira. And every day, John McMasters in his little tennis suit, the first clear, John would come by in this little like golf cart with only one seat next to him and say, "Who wants to go with me into East Grinstead?" And that was me. Because there were two other couples. Every single day I rode with John McMasters. He was incredible, from South Africa.
Yeah.
Beautiful accent.
Good
and
man.
I rode into, and we talked about everything. He was probably my best experience to do with heart, wonderful heart and good energy, was that month, maybe 2 months before Ira joined me at St. Hill.
Now, can I ask two questions? Number one, were you a staff member at that point? Were you just a public Scientologist? What was your?
I was public. Yeah, no, I wasn't staff. Yeah. I wasn't on any contract. And I was doing my academy levels, my training, and Tommy Klingvale was my coach. I mean, we worked it together. All the Swedes were overtaking St. Hill, and I'm half Swedish, and there was like tons of Swedish people pouring in. So I was very lucky with Tommy Klingvale. I mean, he was amazing.
All right, my second question is, at that time, was it 1967?
Yeah.
Was Hubbard, did you meet L. Ron Hubbard, or did you see him there at St. Hill?
We were promised he was at St. Hill. That's what everyone was told. And we get there, and he was already in Southampton on the ship. So we never met him there.
How about Janis? Janis, were you there during that time period, even though maybe you guys didn't meet?
Yeah, we did. I was there during that time period. She was probably always on course, and I was going to school, and then I'd catch the bus to St. Hill, and I'd go get coffee for my mother and Phoebe as the first thing I did when I get there.
Wow.
You were like 10 years old?
Yeah, 10, and I was 10 at that time, and then I'd go hang out with the Hubbard kids until Mom was ready to go home.
And they were building the castle at that time, right?
Yeah, the castle was being built. Captain Bill was in charge of that. He did the architect work on it, and he was in charge of getting the castle built. And I remember going there. It was like whenever it rained, it was just so muddy because the paths hadn't been put in or anything, and you'd have to stomp through mud to get in the classroom.
I remember that. Yes. It was lovely.
Yeah, so much for nowadays where everything has to be perfect to start delivering. Back then with Hubbard around, it was like there was auditing going on at the tennis courts. Yeah. Do you remember that, Candy? And people doing the drills, you walk by the tennis courts and you hear them telling the ashtray to stand up in the chair and to sit down. And you go out to Fairy Forest and there's people in the forest with little tables and chairs auditing each other. It was like you didn't have to have before you could do.
Yeah. You just did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this next picture up here.
Okay. So now this picture here is Ira. We couldn't find the one of Candy and us kids, but this was Ira. We had finished the liability cruise and we'd gone into dry dock in Valencia, Spain. And so all the kids were moved from the ship to Valencia Hotel, and Candy being our tutor, she went with us. And I remember Candy was so excited. She hadn't seen Ira in so long. And then Ira showed up while we were there.
We jumped far ahead here now. So you came to the ship, Candy, right? At what year did you come to the Apollo? This is the Flagship Apollo we're talking about.
Back up a tiny bit. I was the first student on the briefing course on the fast flow system. That meant I got to sign it myself off on everything. I didn't have to memorize anything, no checkouts. And I finished in record time. I listened to every tape. I just took from it what I could relate to and understand and use to help people with, which was what we're supposed to be doing. I agreed with all the basic things. Turned out they were more of a hype and not what was really being delivered later on. But back in the 60s, It was a pretty interesting concept. I really enjoyed it. I got through that briefing course past Ira, zoom, right on by, because they were still on this plodding along thing, heavy duty. So I zipped right through. I believe when I graduated that course, Hubbard had put out a bulletin right after. That's it. We're done with the fast flow system. So lucky for me, I made it through on the quick system, and I enjoyed that very much. So I there was a telex from Mary Sue Hubbard. She was no longer at St. Hill either. And any graduating class sixes, please come to AO Alicante to help out. So Lenora Adams and I got on the train and off we went over through France, down through Spain, AO Alicante. And we were there for 3 days. I was a review auditor giving sessions, and boom, this mission came in with I can't remember their names, but very tall, Van Staden. What are their names, Janis?
Joe
von Staden and Jill von Staden.
Yeah, so they came in. Everyone got gray rags on their arms, all the staff at AO Alicante, the very first AO. And
AO is Advanced Organization.
Advanced Organization. And I kept saying, oh no, I'm not in this. I'm not in the Sea Org, whatever it was called back then. I said, I got to go back to St. Hill. My husband's at St. Hill on course. And so they took me by my arms. I was the last person on this dusty old bus. And my big suitcase was thrown up, and they just pushed me right on. The suitcase, and the only person that had a seat next to him was Neville Chamberlain. Yes. So
we have a picture of Neville.
Amazing trip. He made everything better. You know, I didn't like being abducted and kidnapped, but that was what happened. We had to carry our suitcases across a ship with giant chains on it and giant ropes, and stumble over these things in the middle of the night in Buriana, Spain, and on to the Royal Scotsman. It was still the Royal Scotsman. I took that photo of Neville up in the AO in Edinburgh, where he was playing guitar. He was just, still is, a real hunk and just an amazing person.
We've done several interviews with Neville, actually.
Yeah.
So our audience is pretty familiar with him. Yeah.
Now, okay. So you were taken to the ship, but you were not in the Sea Org yet. You were just taken there because they needed.
So we got on the ship. This is that night. Lenora Adams and I are with Baron Berez, with the flat black hat he wore, like with a mace, swinging his mace, signed this contract. I looked down at this paper, 2 seahorses.
Right.
On the top of it, Sea Organization, 1 billion years. And I'm going, no way. You know, Hubbard knows that time is the basic aberration. Hubbard would never do this. This is going to stick people to time. I was like yelling and screaming, no way. And you could feel the ship shuddering. It's in the middle of the night, pulling away. He says, Baron Berez, well, then get off the ship. So I said, okay, I'll sign this under duress. And that's, Janis, what I was talking about. From then on, I was like, F you, fuck.
Right.
You guys cannot control me. I'm a free spirit. I always have been.
Right.
Now,
well, that
Candy,
was kind of like me, Candy, where I was forced to sign the CO contract at 11 years old. Where basically, my mother was off on another ship, and I'd probably never see her again. And then where do I go? So, and then you came along, so that was nice.
Yay!
Now, Candy, where was the ship when you came aboard? What port or what city or?
So this is the liability cruise, And that's a good question because
Janice, do you know?
I was in, well, that was Buriana. That's why I said we're in Buriana in the middle of the night, coast of Spain. And we
Okay,
weren't
it's in
allowed
Spain.
to touch down for 30 days. It was something like 30 days. Hubbard had left the ship, tried to get his wife to leave with him. She wouldn't leave her ship. She's the captain of her ship. She was there. The kids were there, except for the Janice, you know who was in there, but Suzette's in that photo with Ira. I took this photo.
Suzette's standing directly behind me. I'm there on the left side in that dark dress with the white kind of flowers or something, but Suzette's in the white shirt right behind me.
Yes.
And my sister, well, it's me in the middle there on the left, Ira, and then on the right is my sister.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful children.
Yay. And Candy, were you immediately made responsible as like the tutor or like
No. What happened is I became the cook. Who knows how that happened? No good reason. And in 3 days, it turned out I used half of the stores of food. I didn't know we weren't touching down for 30 days. I had no idea what was going on. So I just made wonderful meals, but we went through half the stores and I got taken off that post after 3 days when they found out. And they ended up with some of the paid hands, the deck hands, down there cooking the Spanish. Yeah. And they were fishing and making fish soup. It was like, oh. So anyway, I don't remember who it was that said, well, what do you want to do? And I just said, I've seen these kids around. I'm going to help these children because you cannot do this to children. So I think I just came up with the name Crew Tutor. The Crew Tutor. Yeah. There was no post. No one put me on a post. I just created it. And it was a really good thing because after I left the ship, when we're in AO up in Edinburgh, orders of the day coming through and the kids were out of control. There was somebody lighting fires in people's cabins. Hubbard was like, rah, rah, rah. But meanwhile, there was nobody there being there for the children,
Right. Well, and we weren't allowed to go ashore without an adult, and the ship was in liability where no one was allowed showers or anything like that.
Yeah,
but Candy had a connection with Mary Sue and got permission to take us kids ashore. And we'd go into the port and she'd take us to the beach, and we didn't have swimsuits with us. So we'd come back soaking wet and swimming in our clothes.
In Hawaii, we swam in clothes. That's what the Hawaiians do. But
okay, Janice, you brought up an interesting point. Candy, do you remember meeting Mary Sue Hubbard and what was she like?
I'm going to tell you that Neville Chamberlain, and I was just one of his harem, Seriously, Neville was very sexy and incredible person. I think he was 19. I was turning 20 at the time. And so Neville connected me with Mary Sue. Neville had this wonderful little portable record player for 45s. And I'd never heard Jimi Hendrix before. And we were up in Mary Sue's lounge with all those sofas, the big sofas.
Well, it became LRH's office, but at the time it was just a lounge.
And she was there with her friend. And I was there with Neville, and we danced all night. I never saw any drugs or anything. I still never got to do any drugs, which had been my goal. But we just had so much fun. Me and Mary Sue, Neville, and John O'Keefe, I believe.
It was John O'Keefe.
For the whole time, every night. It really helped, us get out of the frame of mind. Mary Sue was buying it.
This is during the liability cruise. Yeah. Everybody else was down below decks and, in lower conditions. And Mary Sue's up there partying with Candy, Neville, and John O'Keefe.
Yeah, but I didn't have a rag on my arm. That was the one thing because I was new to the Sea Org.
Right. We
And
were already in liability when you arrived.
yeah, everyone was in liability.
Yeah.
And so Mary Sue said the last time I saw her on the ship, I took a lot of close-up photos of Mary Sue, which I don't think you have, but
No,
real
I
close
don't.
Mary Sue in dry dock looking up at the ship. But she said to me, "This is the power cruise, not the liability cruise." It was do you know that, Janis?
No, I didn't.
She called it the power cruise. Yay. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Mark, you have
Here's-
another picture here from the liability cruise.
Is it the
That
one
one
on
it
the
was.
shore?
Yeah, that one there. Yeah. That one was, and we've told the story with Neville about how we all
Yeah.
got stranded ashore with no passports and money in Spain. And there's some of the guards on us. And out of all those pictures, I found this one that showed Candy was here. And if you go to the middle of the picture and go 3 heads to the right at the very back, you'll see a blonde.
Yeah, just look for the blonde.
Yeah, that
Just
was
look for the blonde. And that's Candy. If you go back to the middle and you see that guard in the front right by his head, that's me.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was one of the only people that spoke Spanish. And somehow I had Castilian Spanish going on. And so between me and I think Joan Robertson,
Yes.
we were the two people, and I was using sign language and all kinds of stuff and just acting silly and pretty and la la la. And so we were able to get the guards to do things that they were very tough, and they just couldn't help but smile and laugh, you know. It's a strange situation. We had no
It
ID
was.
on us. We were stuck out there. Oh boy.
Yeah, for the viewers who don't know, we have there's other videos we've done earlier about this being beach. Basically, they were doing lifeboat drills, right, Janice, off the Royal Scotsman at the time, off the coast of Spain, and they couldn't get back to the ship, and so they basically had to come ashore. And at that time, you know, the Spain was not an open country; it was under Franco, and so as soon as they hit the beach there, all the locals and the police showed up, you know, because they weren't legally supposed to be there.
Yeah, we were basically under arrest and,
Yep.
you know, these armed guards, and we had an adventure.
Yeah.
And we made it back safely to the ship.
Yes, we did. After a
Anyway.
night sleeping on the floor of a restaurant.
Yep.
I'll put the links to the videos that we did. That it's a whole story with Neville Chamberlain. I'll put it in the description of the video for our viewers. So if you want to watch it, you can watch it after this. It's a great story.
Okay.
With lots of photos.
Okay.
Next, Janice.
So all right. So now Candy's been on the ship being our tutor. And then Candy, you ended up, Ira showed up when we were in dry dock in Valencia, which is what I was talking about. And he was great. That's the first time I met him. And Candy was so excited that Ira was finally arriving from St. Hill. And so she introduced all of us kids to Ira and hung out for several days. I mean, we lived on a hotel right on the beach. We'd walk out of our rooms and out into a courtyard, and the courtyard led right to the beach. It was a great location.
Where was this at? Where?
In Valencia.
Valencia, Spain.
Now,
hold on. Time out. I need to ask some questions here about Janice.
Okay.
Candy. Okay, Janice. Candy, what was it like teaching these kids as their tutor, and how good a student or not was Miss Janis Grady, Gillham Grady?
Miss Janis Grady, did you say?
Miss Janis Gillham
me.
Grady, sorry.
How was she as a student?
Yeah, like, did she show up on time? Did she do her homework? I mean, come
she
on,
was
let's get some dirt here.
She was my favorite. And there was this little boy. He's in the picture with Ira up near the top above Ira's head, kind of. But he would not behave. So I didn't let him be a part of our group. And Do you remember that, Janis? I said,
Yes,
"Nope,
I
you
do.
go away, be by yourself. When you're ready to behave, be okay like all these other kids are doing, you can come and be in our class." So, and he did eventually come and ask, please. And I'd never read the ethics conditions or anything at that time. So it turns out it was just a natural thing, and he behaved.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, you
where would you
also,
teach? Hold on. Where was your classroom? How did you, how was it all set up? How did
Do
you
you,
teach these kids?
Janis?
on the ship, we in the forecastle in the front of the ship, there was a crew mess hall, dining hall, and that was converted into a classroom for us. And so
Okay.
she taught us in there in the beginning. But when we were in Valencia, there wasn't at the hotel, there wasn't a particular place. I mean, we spent a lot of time on the beach.
And that's what I did. I'm from
Yeah,
Hawaii. Nature is teacher. Mother Nature is it for me. And so we were always outside as much as possible.
but because there was there wasn't so many kids, she assigned us older ones. We all were responsible for one kid younger each. And I remember Suzette and I were laying down sunbathing, and the little Robbie McDonald, who Suzette was responsible for, comes over, and she was too busy sunbathing to pay attention to him, so he peed on her. I will never forget that. It's like, that's a good way to get attention.
That's the kid I didn't let be in the group.
I think it was his older brother, Larry.
Fire. Didn't he set fire afterwards?
I think that was his older brother, Larry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what would you teach them? Were you teaching them like English and social studies and math, or were you teaching them
just
Scientology?
kind of basic kind of math and probably reading, writing, arithmetic. That's it. Yeah.
Okay. And how many hours a day, Janis, would you go to school? Or because they were making you work, right, at 10, 11 years old? Is that right?
Yeah. So we were supposed to go. When Hubbard came back on the ship, that's when he kind of put in more structure of
no structure.
3 hours a day. The kids all had to do schooling.
Okay. Now, my next question. Go ahead.
Before that,
we just hung out. I mean, we hung out. I don't remember any structure at all.
So you basically took care of the kids. You were like you'd be a nanny or a tutor or whatever. The parents were working, so you were responsible for the kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Somebody had to be.
Yeah. How about were you the one responsible to make sure that they were taking a shower and eating right and going to bed on time? No.
I didn't do any of that.
No.
I never saw where you folks even lived on the ship that I remember.
No.
I just remember when Hubbard came back to the ship and you and your sister brought your mom over to my cabin to meet me. That was wonderful meeting Yvonne. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
because that's when she came back aboard.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Candy, what do you remember the first time you met L. Ron Hubbard and what it was like?
Yeah, that was 2 years later. So can I tell you how we got to AO Alicante quickly?
Sure.
We took off Bill Robertson and Neville Chamberlain, Ira Chaliff. We went through Heathrow, London Airport, went to a movie called 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Sure.
That big was grand opening. Yeah. We sat there all in a big group and watched this thing. It was like, yay, this is my style. I love science fiction. So we ended up in AO, up in this old YMCA with a spiral staircase up there in Edinburgh. And I became the public relations officer. And I set up the whole thing. I met with the Bobbies, the police, and I got all the student housing organized. I did graduation and ended up, Neville was there, ended up going on that flight of freedom. Janis, you were going to bring that up.
Yes.
I'm bringing it up.
But I think the flight to freedom was from the U.S. after you were in Edinburgh.
No, from Edinburgh.
Yeah.
We got flown out. Me and Randy Knight was my right-hand man. And nobody told us what was going on politically with Scientology and the British government. But Neville said, this is your chance to get out of here, because Madeline, what's her name? I don't remember her last name, but they were higher ups in the execs.
Okay.
And she didn't like me. She was a blonde, and she did a similar thing that Diana Hubbard did at St. Hill at a party. When Ira and I went to a party, and we were like 20 years old, and she walked up to me, Diana Hubbard, with all that flaming red hair, and she grabbed my blonde and she yanked her, and she said, "Oh my, what beautiful hair you have." That was my meeting Diana Hubbard. I think that was more important to me than when I met Hubbard later. I was
she was probably 15.
Yeah,
she was probably
she
about
was about
15 at the time.
Yeah. And just stunning, beautiful. And she was jealous, like a blonde, you know. I thought, wow, well, here we go. So anyway, so we, and Randy and I took a plane across to New York City. We ended up, I think, our very first speech was in Town Hall next door to Carnegie Hall. And all these people came, and I don't know if you have any of those photos.
Yeah, Mark, there's a picture.
I'm confused. Well, hold on. I'm confused time-wise. You were tutoring and on the ship, and then this happened after? Because before you were saying
Edinburgh, Scotland. We set up Edinburgh, Scotland.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is after you were on the ship teaching the kids?
Yeah. Right. Mark, she had said when she set up AOSH Alicante, when actually she meant Edinburgh.
Did I say
Alicante? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because you said Alicante before, when they brought you to the ship was from Alicante.
Yeah.
So really,
and then she was on
now is Edinburgh.
She was on the ship, then she went to Edinburgh.
Got it.
Yeah. And so then from Edinburgh,
Space Odyssey, the movie, which set us up for the stars, you know.
Right. And then to Edinburgh, she was sent to New York, where she was then working to get people on what was called the Flight to Freedom.
Why?
And you can.
Why? What was going on?
Well, I'll go into that. But if you find the picture, there's a bunch of people all sitting there, and she's up on the stage right there. Yeah. So that's her now talking to people. Go on, Candy.
I kind of think I need to back up a quick second. This lady, Madeline, that was grabbing my hair like Diana Hubbard had done, and she was a blonde. She put me in liability condition, and I was public relation officer all day long, and then I had to stay up all night, no sleep, 7 days, stapling the carpet squares, because we were just putting this thing together in Edinburgh. And I was up all night, and after the third night, and Neville said, keep going, keep going. He was very encouraging, and I just said, fuck them, I can do this. And man, if you want to talk about any kind of OT something, I did 7 days and night, no sleep, and I went boom. So Neville said there's this mission coming up called the Flight of Freedom. You go to America, you need to get out of here, because I got out of the liability condition doing that. And I was like on fire. I was like, fuck everybody.
And
I'm
this was
doing
in
this.
Edinburgh?
That's in Edinburgh, stapling.
And you were setting up
Scotland.
the advanced organization at Edinburgh?
Yeah, we were still setting it up. And I was public relations. I wasn't anything to do with the technology.
Yeah.
So
A
I had a
mission.
woman that was after me, hated my guts. Get out of here, Neville says. And so I did. I took that mission and went to America. And we did
Right.
15 lectures from all the way down from Miami all the way up to Toronto. So 15 stop lecture tour every day. It was a 2-week mission. And on the way back, we had all these people, 300 something people. Randy took one plane. I took a different flight.
Let me just jump in here, Candy.
You go ahead.
Yeah, Alicante was moved to Edinburgh.
Oh,
And why the advanced organization was set up in Edinburgh and not put in at St. Hill was because the English had banned Scientology. And so, but the Scottish had not.
oh.
And so, yeah, so that's why it was put there. So like when my dad left the ship, he didn't go straight into London. He went into Ireland from Spain and crossed on a ferry. That way he wasn't being questioned at the border as to his purpose of going into England, because he went into Ireland and went across to England. So people were trying to find new ways to get into England.
And this is
Yes,
all
Bob.
because after Hubbard came back from Rhodesia or whatever, that England said no more Scientology. Like they banned.
Right.
They made it like you couldn't come into England to study Scientology any longer. Is that right?
Exactly. Because Americans were coming in, Australians were coming in, and Hubbard was a undesirable alien. So any Scientologists coming in were being sent back or questioned and patted down and interrogated, and they'd have to have, they'd make up some sort of story to get them into England, and it'd be nothing to do with Scientology, but luggage would be searched, and if they found any Scientology stuff, that person was booted back out.
Now, when was this? Around what years were these?
This would have been 68.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
68.
And so Candy now is being sent to the U.S. because they've got to now get students to Edinburgh.
Because that's where the advanced organization is now.
Right. So that's where Candy goes with Randy. And they've got 300 people now who are going to be flying into England. But no one briefed them that there was trouble with customs and immigration in England. And so people were being sent to London instead of going to Ireland or straight to Scotland.
And I arrived with the first flight, and I got through with the first 10 people. Louise Kelly was one of those people. Richard Kipperman was one of those people, because they came to find me later, years later. And this flow, we're all coming through. I had half the people, Randy had the other half, and 10 of us go through. We got our luggage. I'm like, what happened? No one else is coming. So I run back, and I have my passport in my hand, and a little weasel guy is what I call him. He looked like a weasel to me, runs up to me, an official, grabs my passport out of my hand. And they were apparently interrogating everyone else in rooms with bright lights. They told me about it later. And I turned around and I ran. I used to run in high school. I was a runner, a sprinter. So I sprinted, and the 10 people had 2 black taxis, the British taxis back then, right out there with all our luggage. And I hopped in the taxi, and it was a Sunday. And we went to the American Embassy, and I don't know how I did it, but I got myself a new passport, because I would have been in big trouble. Anyway, and this is London. So we had to take a train up to Edinburgh. And we arrived up there. I was a spokesperson for the Americans in Edinburgh. Bill Robertson put me as, and that's my, that picture on my Facebook is from the newspaper article. Candy Swanson says we're not running away. Scientologist, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's what that picture is from of me.
Let me ask you a question, Janice, and also Candy, but Candy
Yeah.
more so. What when you went to the United States and did these briefings or whatever all over the place, what were you telling the American students that were going to come over? Did you guys say, well, England has now said that L. Ron Hubbard's undesirable, so we can't go to London, we're going to go to Edinburgh? Or was there just some short story or PR story that you guys had to tell?
Nothing.
No, that she didn't even know. She had to just get all these people to Edinburgh. She didn't know there was a problem.
Oh, she didn't know why they had to go to Edinburgh.
No,
just get them. Okay.
Just Americans.
When you've got 300 people all arriving at the same time, that's how the first 10 got through. And then it was like immigration was like, wait a minute, these people aren't supposed to be coming through.
We're being invaded.
Exactly. And we're going to have Holly Carlson on at a later date. And she was one of those people.
That's right.
She on the flight to freedom, as it was called.
Yeah.
And we have a picture of Candy boarding one of those planes. But yeah, so these people were basically being fed into the lion's den.
Yeah. Oh, that's my picture. I have a Band-Aid on my foot from blisters wearing shoes. And that's town hall. And we're up on the stage. And yeah.
Look at you. You're like a shining light in your blonde hair and your white dress. And, you stand out, from everybody.
Oh, she was beautiful. There's some great photos.
Oh, no, I know. I'm just saying it's a great, it was a good idea they made you the spokesperson for this.
Well, I was just very relaxed.
Yeah, there she is.
Yeah.
And this is going on the flight to Edinburgh or to London?
To London.
Got it.
Oh, yeah. This is with Randy. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
I thought of a different mission. That was later. But we went all the way. This is downtown New York City with a bunch of the people that were coming with us. Randy Knight only got cash from people, no credit cards, no checks. He had a suitcase full of cash. He was in charge of the money. They all paid for courses and everything. He had so much money in there. And I was just like, yay, let's go. You do your little hula dance.
Did credit cards even exist in those days?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, yay. That's a different mission here.
Okay.
Who's that?
This is in 1969. And that's my final mission before I returned as the first returning old timer to the ship. And that's when I met Hubbard on the ship. So that's me and Donetta Phelps. She was from Tustin. And I took her as my right-hand man. And it was Dianetics, standard Dianetics, whatever that was called, the new Dianetics. And they had bottlenecked and no one was graduating. And I had my little trusty camera with me. I took 2 photos. Turned out one photo was of, who's that man? That Bent? Come over here. Who's your favorite?
She's calling on Ben Carden.
Here. Come on, Ben. Come over here. Come here. Well, just know you have to come down, and so they can see Ben Carden. Yay! What's his name, Janice? Do you know? It's he's passed away now. Your favorite?
Bill Fine.
No. The
Tom
singer,
Morgan,
songwriter in the real world. But I took a picture of this guy. I didn't know that's who it was. Not Willie Nelson, the other guy that we listened to. The songwriter. Leonard Cohen. I got it.
Leonard Cohen.
Oh, okay,
from New York.
Yeah,
he was a
and I took a
Scientologist,
picture.
too.
And there he was on the course in the front row, and it's Leonard Cohen. I found out later.
Right.
Yeah. So that was my claim to fame. I took a picture of Leonard Cohen. And this is Bent Corridan.
Yeah.
Well, while we've got Bent
surprised.
Well, we got Bent here. Bent is
There's
the
your
author
book.
of this book.
Oh, look at that.
See, I told you I had it.
Turn it around so they can see what he looks almost the same up at the top. The picture
Yeah,
at the
there.
top. There's Bent. In the old days before I met you.
Yeah.
Janice,
Well,
tell people what the
years.
name of the book is.
Yeah. This is L. Ron Hubbard, Messiah or Madman. And it was written by Bent Carden with
Don't sit
L.
on
Ron
my
Hubbard
chair.
Jr.
Sit on my
So-
lap. Come sit on my
So
lap,
Hubbard's,
Papa.
Hubbard's oldest son from his first marriage worked with Bent on this book. And if anyone wants to buy the book, just email me and I will make the arrangements to get the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you can find it on eBay or Amazon.
We
but
have a lot of copies. We have a lot of that
Yeah.
book. Bent would
I
Here's
have
happily
Janice's email
connections.
address.
Yeah, I have connections.
There's Janice's email address right there. So you can email Janice if you're interested in L. Ron Hubbard, Madman, or Messiah. You'd like a copy. Email Janice and she'll hook you up and tell you what to do.
Bent
You know, I've
Carden's one
known-
of the connections. Okay,
I've
Bent,
known Bent.
go over there. I'm going to
I've
keep
known
seeing
Bent
this.
since I was 17 years old. My first trip to the U.S., Tim Eaton, who ran the U.S. missions, called Bent, who was the mission holder at Riverside, and said, "Hey, let's go to Disneyland and take Janice." So that's when I met Bent. Tim Eaton and Bent and I went to Disneyland.
Ah,
Ah.
that's great.
And I had a tour of the Riverside mission, and he had a buzzing place, 3 stories
Oh,
high.
Riverside
and-
is huge. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was the top mission. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Anyway, we're getting here at an hour, but what I would like to do, I'd like you to tell the story of the first time you saw or met L. Ron Hubbard, and then
All right.
we'll end off for this show.
All right. So
Because
I
this is
was
right
the-
after the flight to freedom or whatever, right? You
I
came
was
back
the
to the
first. Well, this is a year after that. We
Okay.
went and set up the Advanced Organization of Los Angeles with Bill Robertson from Edinburgh, Scotland. So Americans
Is
weren't
that- this is-
allowed into England,
Is
so
that
we
this
went to
this
LA.
picture here?
No, that's on another mission. Yeah,
But
but
that's the uniform.
that's a
For
uniform.
the AO.
yeah.
That's why I was wondering if it was the Advanced Organization in LA.
Yeah, I guess we wore that uniform at the. No, this is in Washington, D.C., but on a different mission. At the end, right before I returned to the ship, Hannah Eltringham had me doing missions. But a year before, for a year, I was review auditor of the AO, and people had a lot of problems with OT3, and I would take them in and I'd say, "Is it true for you?" You know, I just use the basics. No, blah, blah. Okay, good, you're done. Off to the examiner. They were very happy because I always like to unplug bottlenecks, you know? What's the real problem here? Well, is it real for you? Hello? That's the basics, right, Janice?
That's right.
Well, anyway, that's what I went along with. And it's not a belief system. It's whatever works for the person. So as a review auditor, you're trying to help that person help themselves, you know? And I
Right.
did that really well. Yvonne came in. Your mom was in charge of the AOLA for a while, and she put us on 24 hours. And I was the only review auditor at the upper levels here, clear and above. So I audited 24 hours a day. This is important to me because this made me an OT again. I took cat naps on the floor for 5 to 10 minutes between sessions. People would bring my food to the door. We were in an apartment building behind the AO, and they just brought my clients back there, and I had a bathroom and a room, and I slept on the carpet, and I didn't sleep during the night, and I did this for months. So there's nobody else to take over from my post.
And you know, Candy, on the ship, when Hubbard found the auditors were auditing PCs, pre-class, after 10 o'clock at night, he wrote a policy on that, a bulletin, and was like, you do not take pre-class into session after 10 o'clock at night, because there's a certain, the body, there's certain
Absolutely.
things that shut down at nighttime. And so you're not going to get the results you needed to get if you're auditing after hours. So my mother was off on doing that.
Oh, okay. She was off on doing that, meaning, what does that mean?
It was wrong. It was wrong
stop?
of her.
Oh yeah, well I
It was wrong
know.
of her to do that.
And I would actually go into a comatose state because of the lack of sleep, and I'd have to move my little finger, and finally my body would, I'd have my eyes open, but I couldn't move. I was in this strange state from no sleep. So,
And you know what we'd call that? Is a
What?
stat push.
oh yeah.
And so that's a full circle back to you for coming up with stat analysis.
Yay.
Okay, so
But I ended
how
up
did you
getting, I ended up out of there, Mark,
Yeah.
and run by Hannah Eltringham on many different missions, going to
Yeah.
every org in the United States. I always did what I called theta missions. That means goodness, peace, love, happiness, and let's help people. And meanwhile, there were other missions going around destroying folks, and I'm there to clean them up. People were scared of Sea Org missions. So I didn't do what people were supposed to be doing. I just did what I did. I ended up New York org, Billy Joe Tolan, the Class 8 auditor at New York, who we knew from the beginning, me and Ira. He says, well, here are all these folders and no one's moving, no one's graduating. Here, look inside. I said, no, I'm just going to, and I put my hand on the top of every folder and I said, this is a CS. Boom, 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 boom. People started graduating. I didn't use Scientology tech. I bypassed and just handled what was happening in front of me. So hello.
Okay, so
That's
now can we
me.
get back to, how did you get back to the ship?
So then I was sent.
And how did
to
you
say-
meet Hubbard?
So I was sent to the ship, the Apollo, it was called now,
Yeah.
as the first returning old timer, because I'd been there before. And
Uh-huh.
instead of being sent there in chains, which is what was happening to a lot of folks,
Wow.
I went there in power. And on day 3, I was Tony Dunleavy's communicator. Up on the top deck, he was Commodore staff for Hubbard. And so I'm down out of his door. I just delivered papers to him. And I hear someone bellowing. And this is up at those top long hallway there, Janis, with all the Commodore staff cabins.
On the prom deck.
Yeah.
On the promenade
And
deck.
I'm right at the very end, outside of Tony's door, and I'm shrinking, trying to become invisible, because I couldn't go back inside his office. And there's Hubbard way down there on the banister, pounding away, and roar, roar. And he turns around, and he sees me. And he says, hiya, and he has a grin from ear to ear, this huge... You know, his face was malleable. It seemed, it was just wonderful, strawberry golden energy pouring down the hall at me. And I just went, okay. And I skipped down up to Hubbard, and I was myself suddenly. And I was like, hi, Hubbard, how's it going? And we talked about 15 minutes. He'd been yelling at his Commodore staff 7 person. And he said, welcome to the ship, and I'd done an excellent mission there, and blah, 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 and I skipped on down the stairs, and he went right back to bellowing and pounding on the banister. He had just switched it off, greeted me, welcomed me, off I went, and then he continued what he was doing. So to me, that was kind of amazing. I really appreciate it.
So he obviously knew who you were and also some of the work that you'd done, correct?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, now let me ask you this. When did you see Janice? Do you remember her coming back to the ship? Were you a messenger then?
Oh, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
What was
well,
that
Candy, no matter, to me, I enjoyed it because it was a safe person for me. Someone that I'd already had that connection with who had shown care for us kids. You know, there wasn't a lot of people that treated us the way Candy did. You know, some were afraid of us because we were messengers. Some had nothing to do with us because we were just young kids, you know, but Candy always showed that special affection.
Yay.
That's
Thank you.
great.
Yeah. You're
Well,
welcome.
let's end it on that point, and we'll leave the viewers, you know, wanting more. We'll do some more here in the near future, so you can tell some more of your story, because you got a lot more to tell, I'm sure.
Well, I'm in the present, and I still doing what I always do. Just be, you know, and help
That's
other
great.
people. That's it.
That's great. Well, we want to thank you, Candy, for being on our show. Okay. And we want to ask a few things to our viewers here. If you're interested in our channel and you like this stuff, please subscribe to our channel. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. We really appreciate it if you would. And the notification button. And that would be very great. And then also, if you have any questions or comments about what we've talked about here, you can go down in the comments section, and we check them routinely and answer them. So anyway, we welcome you all to do that. Finally, if you'd like to donate to our channel, you can buy us a coffee. There's a link down in the description of the video. Just click on it and you can buy us coffees. And any money donated, we just really put it back into the channel. So anyway, we just wanted to mention that there. And also, I should mention too, Janis's book. This is Janis around the time, right, Janis? Candy would have been there or not then when you were with her?
Candy had already been there and gone.
But I'm in the book a whole lot.
Yes, she is in the book. And I used a lot of her photos.
Oh, those are your photos. I didn't know that. Oh, that's great.
There's some of her photos. I used those. The ones during the liability cruise of Mary Sue inspecting the ship with Otto Roos. I have those in there. And yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, anyway, Janis's book is available. There's a link down below. Just click on it. You can get an autographed copy of that one. And then also there's book 2 as well. So either one of those books, you can order them. They're great reads. They do have photographs in them. And obviously Candy took a lot of them. So that's great. You know, they're really wonderful photos and great stories. So anyway, if you're welcome to order those books down there, and we would greatly appreciate it. That's all we've got for today. Candy, have you got anything else you'd like to say? Or
my pleasure. That's my pleasure. Thank you.
Mahalo to you.
Thanks for coming on.
Yay. Thank you.
All right. Until the next time, everybody, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Shaka.
Hang loose.
Hang loose.